Hello friends, today I'm sharing a highly requested recipe with you. Macarons made with all-purpose flour instead of almond flour. Disclaimer, I do understand that macarons are traditionally made with almond flour. However, some people have allergies and really want to try to make macarons with all-purpose flour and have requested this recipe many times, which is why I'm sharing. All-purpose flour is a lovely alternative, but I will let you know in advance that the taste of the shells is not the same as the almond flour shells. They're gonna taste a little bit chalky before they get filled, and the texture is not chewy and soft. But once you fill the macarons and let the macaron sandwiches mature in the fridge for 1 to 2 days, the taste improves a lot, and so does the texture, and they become delicious. This is definitely worth trying. Also pay attention to the macaronage and baking stages, because they're very different than when you make regular almond flour shells, and I'm going to explain everything about it in today's video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every week. Start by sifting the all-purpose flour and the powdered sugar together and set it aside. I'm using the same amount of all-purpose flour that I use for my regular recipe. Place a bowl over a pan with barely simmering water. Add the sugar and the egg whites. If you know my regular recipe, you know that oftentimes I use egg white powder to make my shells. However, this time I'm skipping it because in my experiments, the egg white powder combined with the all-purpose flour made the macarons way too dry and hard. So we're gonna leave it out today. Whisk the egg whites and the sugar until the sugar has completely melted. Touch the mixture with your fingers, and if you don't feel any sugar granules, you can remove it from the heat. Transfer the mixture to the bowl of a mixer and begin whisking on low. Raise the speed to medium and finish whipping the meringue on the speed 6 of the KitchenAid. I usually whip the meringue for about 13 minutes, but don't go by time. You should whip the meringue until it has achieved stiff peaks. For some people, it takes even less than 10 minutes to whip the meringue, and for others, it can take even 20 minutes. So do not trust the clock. You should check for the perfect meringue consistency. The peaks should be shooting straight up and not bending down to the side. And when you look on the bottom of the meringue collected by the whisk, it should have soft but defined waves. Add the sifted dry ingredients to the whipped meringue, and I'm also adding a little bit of white powder food coloring to keep the color white. You can also add whatever food coloring of your choice here. Let's start folding the batter with a spatula. The Macaronage differs from the Macaronage of the macarons made with regular almond flour because you're going to need way less folding than usual. First, you're going to notice that the batter is very stiff, and then all of a sudden it's going to turn very runny. So be careful not to overmix, or the macarons are going to be hollow and have delicate tops that will break easily. My biggest advice when making macarons with all-purpose flour is to fold way less than you would fold regular almond flour macarons. Do not wait to make a figure 8 with a spatula because that's going to mean that the batter is overmixed. The batter can be falling into chunks off the spatula. Instead of focusing on how the batter is falling off the spatula, let's focus instead on how quickly the batter incorporates back with the batter that's already in the bowl. It is very hard to gauge when the batter is ready because we're so used to the almond flour macaron batter consistency that this is going to feel weird at first. If you notice here, the batter is quickly blending with the batter that's already in the bowl. You don't want to fold too much longer past this stage or it's going to be overmixed. It honestly took me a few tries to get this consistency right, which is why I'm warning you to be careful with overmixing. Transfer the batter to a piping bag fitted with a round tip. I'm using a tip number 12. Place the piping bag directly 90 degrees over the center of each macaron template. Apply gentle pressure and carefully pipe for a few seconds, and then quickly pull the bag up, twisting slightly at the top. These macarons are going to spread more than the almond flour macarons usually do. So have that in mind and don't pipe them too big. Once you've piped as many circles as you could, bang the trays against the counter or against the palm of your hands very gently because, like I said, the batter of the all-purpose flour macarons really spreads a lot. Use a toothpick to pop any air bubbles from the surface of the shells. Let the tray sit for a while so the shells will dry out before baking if you're going to rest the macarons. I usually leave them about 20 to 40 minutes. These macarons dried pretty fast. I think that the all-purpose flour is pretty good at soaking up the moisture. You're gonna know that they're ready when you can gently touch the surface of a macaron and it seems dry. Bake the macarons in a 310 Fahrenheit for about 18 minutes. The macarons are not gonna seem done and they might seem a bit soft, but if you continue to bake too long, they're gonna end up super hard. So it might be worth it to bake them slightly less than you would the regular almond flour macarons. They're going to continue to bake and firm up as they cool down. Baking time will also have to be an experiment you do with your own oven. My first few trays all ended up overbaked because I kept baking the macarons until they were no longer jiggly and then made them overbake. To do the no-rest macarons, you can bake the trays immediately after piping the shells. So pipe the shells, tap gently, poke the air bubbles, and then bake. The no-rest method will depend on your oven and baking sheets that you're using. I'm using my countertop oven, so I'm able to bake the shells without resting them first, which can be very useful to save some time. I can do the no-rest method on my small countertop oven, but not on my large oven, because the temperature in the large oven is too uneven. Anyway, in the countertop oven, I baked the macarons slightly longer than on the large oven because I used a 290 Fahrenheit temperature, so they take a few more minutes to bake. But like I said before, just be careful not to overbake because you don't want this to become too hard. Since Valentine's Day is approaching, I'm going to do a heart decoration for the macarons. I'm cutting a stencil out of paper. You can find a template for this little heart on my blog. Use scissors to cut out the heart. And then place the heart on top of a macaron shell. And I used an airbrush machine to airbrush the shell and then remove the stencil. For the frosting, I'm using the same almond buttercream that I posted on my last video. I'm going to post a link for it down below. I colored half of the buttercream red and then made a bicolor filling for the shells. Lay out a piece of plastic wrap on the counter and then spread the two different color frostings on top of the plastic wrap, one next to the other. And then roll the plastic into a log. And place it inside of a piping bag filled with the tip of your choice. Here I'm using a Wilton 6B tip. To fill the macarons, simply pipe the frosting on the bottom shells and then top with a decorated shell. I also filled some of the macarons with jam in the center. I find that the jam really helps the taste of the shells, which don't taste like your usual almond shells, like I said before. Also, make sure to let the macarons mature for 24 to 48 hours so their taste and texture will improve immensely. Overall, these macarons were pretty delicious and it was a fun experience to make them with all-purpose flour. I hope you enjoyed today's video. For the full recipe, go to my blog, the link is down below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!